So now that we have a really good idea of how to work with these paper grains in Corel Painter, I want to talk a little bit more about the paper libraries. Now, the paper libraries are going to work a lot like many of the other libraries that we're going to see in Corel. So hopefully this will get you started in understanding some of the logistics of working with these libraries of whatever type of media or whatever type of paper that we're working with. So to begin with, let's go ahead and click on that Paper Libraries tab. And you'll see at the bottom there's some other icons that we haven't looked at. We have New Paper Library, Import Paper Library, Export Paper Library, and Restore Default Paper Library. So the idea being here is that if you want to just get back to the place where you don't have anything but the default papers, just click this icon. It will delete everything but the default papers. If we want to save out this library, including the new papers that we've made, we can choose to export this paper library, and this will effectively save it out. We can import a new paper library, which we'll do before too long, and we can also just create a brand new paper library that's empty that we can then load brand new papers into. Now, if you remember, we have Capture Paper and Make Paper here, which we've already covered. And then over here, we have Show Paper Controls. Now, what is this? Well, what this is effectively doing is taking us back to this tab. So if I click on this, you'll see there it goes. So the reason why you might want this is because if we've ripped off this tab and we've separated the two, and let's say we closed Papers. If we click this, now Papers comes back. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put this tab back there so that we have the ability of seeing that. So let me just go ahead, there we go. Get back to where we were. So again, like I said, if you need to get to the papers real quick, find it somehow, just click that icon. And of course, we've talked about the trash. Now in the flyout menu, there's a couple of options that are worth talking about. The most important one here is going to be the Paper Library View. You can see we have small icons, medium icons, or large icons. And let's go ahead and look at the large icon. That can be useful to just really see and really understand what it is that you're getting with a paper grain before you choose it. And sometimes I like to work in that mode. Now, one of the things that you can know about these palettes here is that you can resize them. So if you want to look at these paper grains in a more enlarged view, you certainly can do that by simply enlarging the palette and then choosing from the Paper Library View the large icon. Now, if you don't need to see the icons because you know what you want and you're just going to look for a list, you can choose the list. And here we've got just a very tiny little icons, but then we've got the name right next to them. And that can sometimes be useful too if you know exactly what you want or you've created all of your custom papers and you have them named in such a way that you can just simply go through a list very quickly. So that's an option as well. Typically, we're going to leave it at the medium here for the most part. Now, in addition to that, we have the paper libraries. Right now you can see we have two paper libraries open. We have paper textures and we have watercolor papers. Now we could turn these off. As you can see, they're both on, but we could turn either one of these off by simply clicking on that paper libraries and enabling that. And below that, you can see we have New Paper Library, Import Paper Library, and Export Paper Library. We also have Import Legacy Paper Library. This is going back into older versions of Painter. Now, as you can see, those are the exact same functions as we have over here with these icons, including the Restore Default Paper Library, which is this icon right here. So let's go ahead and import a paper library. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that, and it's going to bring up a search dialog. I'm going to go to the desktop. I'm going to go to the Painter 12 Install Folder shortcut. Then I'm going to go to the Extra Content, Papers. We're looking for a paper library in here, and I'm not actually seeing one. So let's hit Cancel. Go ahead and say Import Legacy Paper Library. Do the same thing, Desktop, Painter 12 Install File, Extra Content, Papers, and there we have a bunch of different papers. Now these are the older varieties of papers. That's the reason why they're called legacy papers. And all of these are legacy papers, so they haven't done any new papers for Painter 12. Now, if you save out any papers of your own, then they will have to be loaded using the other command here, which is the first one I showed you, which is Import Paper Library. But for these ones that are in the bonus materials, you're going to use the Import Legacy paper. And again, that's in the Painter 12 Install folder, Extra Content, and Papers. Now, there's a lot of papers you can see here. Let us go ahead and do something like Paper Textures 2. It's going to open all of those, and then it's just going to stack them right below watercolor papers. Now remember, if we don't want to see these, we can just come over to the paper libraries and we can turn off, like say, watercolor papers, and we could turn off, say, paper textures, so that we're only left with viewing the paper textures 2 option. Now, I just accidentally clicked that, didn't mean to do that. So let's go ahead and take a look at what some of these do. First off, let me just go ahead and say edit clear. So you can see here we have many different paper options from some of these legacy papers, and that can be something that can be fun to play with in these different paper libraries. Now, just remember that we do have those other ones hidden, so we can bring those back if we don't mind scrolling down through all those. We could have many libraries open, so we'll just go ahead and import one more. So I want to import a legacy, so remember I have to do that from this import legacy right here. And we're going to go back to desktop, Painter 12 install folder, extra content, papers, and we'll choose something like subtle texture papers. It's going to import those. And there we go. So let's go ahead and pick one of those and make a mark. So you can see, I mean, paper textures are really powerful tools for generating texture with your brushes in ways that maybe you would have a very difficult time doing in the real world because of the fact that there's just certain limitations to what paper can actually accomplish in the real world. However, in Painter, papers and texture are really only limited by your imagination.